Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a new Shadow Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Shadow ALOLAN Graveler. Now ALOLAN Graveler, even before the Shadow release, was already a very popular pick in greatly limited metas due to the fact that it has a pretty nice typing and very oppressive damage. And the good news is, with the Shadow, that damage is even more oppressive, and honestly it doesn't lose a ton of bulk in the process. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out some Great League practice battles featuring Shadow ALOLAN Graveler. Hopping into the first match, picking up a terrible lead, Lurantis into Shadow Charizard. I have two better responses in the back, so I am going to save switch into Dewgong. Dewgong can do okay against Shadow Charizard, but a neutral Shadow Blast Burn will hit incredibly hard, so I will commit a shield. They're staying in, so I'm going to debuff them with an Icy Wind here, and this will ensure that the next Blast Burn is a move that I'm going to be able to survive. I continue to farm up, they make it to the Blast Burn, and I can no-shield here. This will get the Dewgong quite low, but I am able to hang on. Opponent now sends in Swampert. This is incredibly good, as Swampert would absolutely crush the Shadow ALOLAN Graveler in the back. Swampert will get a farm down. I'm now going to send in Lurantis, and Lurantis will look to farm up energy here while tanking multiple resisted Hydro Cannons. They make it to Hydro Cannon number 2. That's perfectly fine. Again, I am not going to shield. I'm going to let that through and look to farm up until just before they make their third Hydro Cannon, and this Leaf Blade will be lethal. And then when my opponent sends in the Charizard, it is going to be Shadow ALOLAN Graveler time. Opponent waiting their clock here. They are going to send in the Charizard. In comes the Graveler, and disaster strikes. It's a Trevenant in the back, so the opponent has us countered in the end game. I bait with the Rock Blast, get the shield, farming up with the Graveler. We make the Stone Edge, one win con. It needs the KO. Shadow Stone Edge, one-shots the Trevenant. We farm down the Charizard, and that is a good game. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Lurantis into Registeel. Lurantis is my counter for Registeel on this team, so I'm definitely happy to see the Regi on the lead. I'm just going to keep farming and wait for my opponent to throw. Opponent will go for the Zap Cannon, looking for the attack debuff, and they get it. That is quite unfortunate for me. But now they've thrown their energy, and now it's Lurantis' time to shine. Lurantis massively overfarming, going for superpower number 2. Because of the earlier debuff they got from Zap Cannon, that will not KO, so now I'm forced to go for a Leaf Blade to get the last bit of damage. Opponent shields. I'm going to save switch into Dewgong as my opponent fires off the charge move. I will shield up the Focus Blast. I need to check and see if my opponent has a counter user in the back, and they do not. They send in Shadow Charizard. I actually go for the Icy Wind on alignment there, specifically because I wanted to outpace them, so that way I can very comfortably no-shield the Blast Burn. Blast Burn is going to get the Dewgong low. Dewgong looking for the farm down, but throwing on alignment comes back to cost me, as the Charizard with 1 HP makes the Dragon Claw. But this just sets up farm for Shadow ALOLAN Graveler. In the back, there's a counter. There is Chestnut. I'm going straight for the Stone Edge here. This is resisted damage, but it sure does not look like it, as Chestnut almost gets into the red. Chestnut firing off a charge move, losing CMP to the Graveler, and at this point, Shadow ALOLAN Graveler has done its job, gotten the Chestnut low, and now Lurantis can finish the fight here. Opponent still has like a 1 HP Regi, so I just have to watch for a catch. Farming up with Lurantis. Opponent goes for the catch. They are unsuccessful, and we get to superpower the Chestnut. Lurantis securing the win, and that's game over. Tough lead in the next match, Lurantis into Pelipper. I save switch into Dewgong. Opponent is going to respond with Registeel. Not the most comfortable matchup ever for Dewgong, but this is where having access to Drill Run is incredibly helpful. Drill Run connects, dealing some solid damage onto the Registeel. Registeel will return fire. I'm going to no-shield here. This does not one-shot Dewgong. They go for the Zap Cannon. They do not get the debuff. Farming up with the Dewgong, and just before I get KO'd, I'm going for the Drill Run. Drill Run is going to connect onto the Registeel, and Dewgong wins switch. And that is incredibly good, as that means the Pelipper is going to be aligned against the Shadow ALOLAN Graveler. In the back, my opponent has a Powder Snow ALOLAN Ninetales, so unfortunately my Lurantis doesn't have any good matchups versus their remaining Pokemon. Weather Ball gets Lurantis low, and now I can fire off the superpower. This is going to hurt. Opponent commits the shield. In comes the Graveler, and it's a simultaneous switch into the Pelipper. Pelipper getting absolutely shredded by Shadow Volt Switch. Weather Ball will be shielded In comes that Ninetales, and Ninetales is about to have a terrible day. Shadow Stone Edge gets shielded, but opponent running out of shields here, and there's just nothing they can do. They are not at the Dazzling Gleam. This is only the Psyshock. Alolan Graveler takes it like a champion. Shadow Stone Edge, get that Ninetales out of here, and that's a good game. Picking up a decent lead in the next match, Lurantis into Defense Deoxys. The nice thing is Fury Cutter does hit for super effective damage. Opponent going for a Psycho Boost, so they'll be looking to switch out. They Psycho Boost, they're staying in here, looking for a catch of a Leaf Blade onto Zweilous, but I'm able to hang on to my energy, and now go for the Superpower. Superpower, massive damage onto the Zweilous. Zweilous hanging on with a sliver of HP, and making the Body Slam. Body Slam will deal some chip damage onto the Dugong. Back in comes the Deoxys, but Deoxys is going to be outpaced as the Dugong is able to make it to the Icy Wind. Icy Wind will be no shielded. Deoxys firing off a charge move here. Even though it's debuffed, this will be super effective damage. Thunderbolt gets the Dugong low, and Deoxys is able to farm down. Back in comes Lurantis. Lurantis close to the back-to-back Leaf Blades here, firing off the first. Leaf Blade will KO. We'll have to see what do they have in the back. They have a Spark Lantern in the back. Lurantis makes one final charge move, Leaf Blade gets the shield, and now it's Shadow Alolan Graveler time. Shadow does mean that Graveler has less defense than the regular version, but the nice thing is we can still tank a Surf. Surf connects, that gets the Graveler low, but since they're on Spark, these Sparks are going to be resisted. Now I can fire off that Shadow Stone Edge. Look at the damage. Oh my goodness. This Pokemon is fun. Lantern gets farmed down, and that's game over. Dream lead in the next match, Lurantis into Lantern, and the Lantern is staying in. I'm going to go for the CMP tie to the Thunderbolt, but my opponent reads me like a book as they catch the Leaf Blade onto Clefable. I'm going to rebank a Leaf Blade for later and send in the Shadow Alolan Graveler. Let's see how much damage does this do. Meteor Mash does a heck of a lot of damage onto the Graveler. Graveler farm it up, and now going to fire off the Rock Blast. This will be lethal. Opponent commits the shield. They are looking to try and take switch advantage, but I do not want to let that happen. So I'm going to shield the Shadow Alolan Graveler and look for the Volt Switch farm down. Graveler able to tank those Fairy Winds, leaving with a sliver of HP remaining and a Stone Edge. Shadow Stone Edge from the Graveler. Massive damage onto the Lantern. Lantern gets the farm down. In comes Lurantis. I resist everything they throw, so I'm just going to farm up some energy here. They go for the Surf. I'm going to farm up and go for the Leaf Blade just before they're able to make their second Surf. This will KO. Opponent will commit the shield in the back. They have Altaria. In comes Dugong, and the opponent concedes the match. Picking up a favorable lead in the next match, Lurantis into Diggersby. Lurantis is able to outpace Diggersby and make the Leaf Blade before Diggersby is able to make the Fire Punch. Leaf Blade deals massive damage to the Diggersby. Diggersby farming up, and Lurantis can tank this, so I am going to let this through. Fire Punch connects. Opponent now going to save switch into Drifblim, and Drifblim will be answered with Dugong. Dugong has a very comfortable matchup here, and I was able to bank a Leaf Blade to threaten that Diggersby later on. I'm farming up with the Dugong and going for the Icy Wind before they make their second Shadow Ball. Icy Wind will be shielded, and honestly, if I get shield advantage, I'm perfectly fine. So I'm just going to let this through. Opponent baits with an Icy Wind, hoping to grab the shield, and that is very unfortunate for my opponent. Icy Wind is going to be lethal, and I have switch advantage and shield advantage. Opponent is going to send in their final Pokemon, and it's Machamp. Machamp, not what I was hoping to see. I'm going to send in Lurantis. I'm now going to need to use the Lurantis to get rid of the Machamp. I'm firing off the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade will get the shield. Lurantis makes the superpower just before it gets KO'd. Machamp has so much energy. I'm going to send in the Shadow Alolan Graveler. Opponent fires off the cross chop, but the Volt Switch went through. They will not get their second charge move. In comes the Diggersby. Diggersby will be met with the Shadow Stone Edge. This is resisted. Diggersby is very tanky, but Shadow Alolan Graveler does not care, and that's game over. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Lurantis into Registeel. This is a very nice lead for Lurantis, so I'm more than happy to stay in here. Opponent goes for a catch onto Trevenant. I'm able to hang on to my energy and respond with Dugong. Dugong does quite well here, as the nice thing is I can tank a Seed Bomb, and my opponent is never really going to be able to farm down, because I'm just going to keep debuffing their Shadow Claws more and more and more. Icy Wind will be shielded, opponent making a play for switch, and I'm not about to let that happen. So I'm going to shield up the Seed Bomb, and then I should be in a pretty decent spot where I can farm up and again fire off the Icy Wind. Icy Wind probably going to be no shielded by my opponent, as I would just be able to shield and farm down after. They're going to send in Registeel. Registeel looking for the farm down, but the nice thing is Dugong able to hang on, make the drill run, and now they are in a range where Superpower will KO. In comes Lurantis, going for the Superpower, and it's caught onto a Lantern, so the opponent was ABA weak to Lurantis. I know that Alolan Graveler is the star of the show since it's the new Shadow, but Lurantis, have your moment to shine. Leaf Blade is going to get him low. We see a switch into the Shadow Alolan Graveler just to basically soak this energy. Surf gets the Graveler low. Graveler gets the farm down. In comes the Registeel, and from here, Lurantis can finish the fight. Focus Blast will KO. Lurantis can very comfortably farm up to the back-to-back Superpowers here. Superpower number 1 is going to be getting the shield, but there's another where that came from. Lurantis, ever so spammy. Superpower number 2, taking out the Registeel, and that's a good game. Tough lead in the next match, Lurantis into Frostlass. 2 better responses in the back, so I am going to save switch into my Dugong. Opponent staying in this matchup, so either they don't have a great response to the Dugong save switch, or they're just wanting to get my shield. I will commit the shield because I'm trying to get rid of this Frostlass, as my Lurantis wants no part of it. Drill Run is going to connect. My opponent now sends in Registeel. That's not what I was hoping to see. I'm going to farm up and go for the Icy Wind on the CMP tie. My goal is I do want to actually live the Focus Blast that they're going to throw, bank some energy for later, and then take advantage of the desync switch clocks and send in my Lurantis. So I'm going to bank a Drill Run for later and send in Lurantis. Lurantis will be able to comfortably tank a Focus Blast here, and now I'm just going to look to massively overfarm. Opponent goes for the Zap Cannon, and they get the attack drop. That is a bit unfortunate. I'm firing off the Superpower, but unfortunately, my damage is debuffed here. Superpower not going to be enough to KO, and I'm going for Superpower number 2 as they make another Focus Blast. Superpower will be lethal. Opponent sends in the Frostlass. This is a double debuff Leaf Blade, but Lurantis hits quite hard. Leaf Blade is going to be shielded by the Frostlass. Lurantis will get farmed down. In comes Alolan Graveler, and I'm shielding. I'm hoping that whatever they have in the back is going to be weak to the Shadow Alolan Graveler, and it's a Quagsire in the back. Oh man, we get a catch, but it's not going to save us, as unfortunately, this is one of the downsides of running Shadow Alolan Graveler in an open Great League meta as opposed to a limited meta, is anything ground type will just absolutely shred it. Quagsire Mud Bomb probably kills an entire herd of Shadow Alolan Gravelers, and that's game over. Hopping to the final match, leading Lurantis into Shadow Alolan Ninetales. Ninetales is running Charm, and they're staying in this matchup. I'm going to fire off the Leaf Blade here, looking to grab a shield or some nice chip damage, and then I'm going to send in Dugong. Dugong will be answered with Registeel, and as we've seen, Dugong can do surprisingly well here. Dugong firing off the Drill Run, that's going to connect onto the Registeel. Registeel continuing to farm, and they're going to return fire here. Whether it's the Zap Cannon or the Focus Blast, they do identical damage. They go for the Focus Blast. I'm farming up. Drill Run will come very close to KOing here. Registeel will commit the shield. Dugong, unfortunately, is going to get Lock On farm down, and now I'm going to send in Lurantis. Focus Blast will grab an immediate shield, as Lurantis has taken quite a lot of charm damage earlier. Here, I could farm up 10 Fury Cutters in CMP tie with the Superpower, but instead, I want to try something different. I want to just absolutely overload on energy with Lurantis and go for the Leaf Blade, because I'm hoping that Lurantis with energy can do well in the end game. Leaf Blade plus the Fury Cutters will KO. In comes the Ninetales, and I'm firing off the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade into the Ninetales, gets shielded. It looks like they're weak, so I'm going for the Leaf Blade number 2. This will be lethal. What does the opponent have in the back? They have a Shadow Swampert, and this is going to be a Lurantis sweep. Shadow Alolan Graveler stays on the bench. One-shotting the Swampert is Lurantis, and that's a good game. All in all, I had a ton of fun getting to test out Shadow ALOLAN Graveler. As I mentioned, it's a Pokemon better suited to Great League limited metas, as in the Open Great League, it has to worry about ground types like Swampert and Galarian Stunfisk. But in some of those Great League limited metas where ground types are not around, Shadow ALOLAN Graveler should prove to be a terrifying safe switch, as the combination of Volt Switch and Stone Edge just hits absurdly hard. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.